Hey, in honor of Halloween, I wanted to talk about a few experiences that have happened to me many years ago. I lived in a white house. This is probably when I was maybe about 8, 9, something like that. And I lived in this 2-story white house with a bathroom that actually went over the stairs and would go across the rooms. Now, first of all, we rented this house when I was a kid, and my grandmother used to have dreams about this house months before we moved in, and she didn't have a favorable belief in it or favorable opinion of it. But anyway, we move in, and not long after we move in, we used to have experiences like you'd be in the basement, and we used to have this pinball machine that we had bought from a local skating rink, and we just play pinball. And you'd be down there, and all of a sudden you'd be fine. All of a sudden you feel like something is just behind you, and you just keep, and I tell you, when that would happen, I couldn't get up the stairs fast enough into the house. The dog wouldn't go down there or anything. And there were other times I'd be in my room trying to sleep, and I'd hear what sounds like laughter or crying coming out of this big walk-in closet I had in my room. It was basically a toy closet, but I'd hear laughing and giggling, and sometimes I'd hear crying. And even my friends would come over and ask, is there a baby crying in my closet? And I'd be thinking, no, nothing like that. So anyway, this goes on. I was always afraid to open the closet door, and one day I finally opened it, and I went in and I closed it. I turned the lights off, and I just sat there thinking, okay, I'm gonna see what this is about. And nothing happened. But sure enough, the minute I go out and I shut the door, I start hearing it again. And by this time, I'm 8, I'm kind of getting aggravated, less than scared. But I was always concerned. And then there was a closet in the bathroom that was on the other side of my room, and I used to hear knocks in there. You know, it'd be nothing big. It would be like 1 knock, maybe 2 knocks here or there, things like that. And one day, and I'm not kidding you, I'm sitting in my room, and this may have been in my imagination, I don't know, but I actually saw a dresser drawer in my room open, and that's where I freaked out. I'm thinking, yeah, I gotta get out of here. I ran downstairs and slept downstairs that day. But being a young kid, you know, after a while you forget about that stuff. And the incident that didn't occur to me at the time, but it occurred to me 15, 20 years later. An incident happened to me in that room. I had this Superman doll, and it was a George Reeves type Superman doll. So it's from the 70s, you know. And I used to take it, and I lived up in the upstairs bedroom, so I used to take it, and I do what any 7, 8, 9-year-old would do. I tied string to it, and I started swinging it around outside like he's trying to fly. And I had about 500 foot of string. Well, anyway, what happens is I have that 500 foot of string, and I'm swinging it back and forth, and I hear my mom coming up. So, you know, I shut the drawer, the window, and I just leave it there. And I sort of forget about it overnight. I go to bed, forget about it and everything. I get up the next day, and that doll, that action figure, let's call it an action figure. That's probably a better word for a young boy. Well, anyway, that action figure was roughly 7 feet above my window, and about maybe 7 or 8 feet away from my window, if that makes sense. Where if I reached out, I wouldn't have the capacity to get there. And all the string was gone. I had 500 foot of string, I think, something like that, and it was all gone, disappeared. And it didn't occur to me then. I thought, maybe it was the wind. But in reality, what could have caused that? Because it wasn't the wind, you know. It couldn't have been the wind to blow 500 or 100 to 500, whatever it was, feet of string, you know, out. This is kite string, and I could never figure it out, and I couldn't get the doll off. It took me probably 6 months for that thing to finally fall out of that tree, because it looked like the string was neatly wrapped around a branch. And I was mad because that was my favorite action figure at the time. This gets more interesting. You know, my mom, one of her friends called the house one day and started asking, started calling the house, and then somebody picked up the phone and she could hear breathing, but they refused to answer. And she kept saying, hello, hello, and then set the phone down nice and neatly. Only nobody was home. Now that could have been the landlady or somebody in there. I mean, we could write that one off, but still, it was very eerie that somebody would pick up that phone like that. And then another time, my mom was laying downstairs on the couch, just relaxing. I'm at school, me and my sister are at school, my dad's at work, she's down there with the dog. And all of a sudden, she hears stomping upstairs. And then she hears it coming down the stairs. And the dog's like growling and freaking out by this time, but she hears it stomping in the kitchen, and then it starts stomping into the room next to her, and she's looking in there and doesn't see anything. And then it sounds like a front door slams. And my mom couldn't figure out what that was. And it wasn't long after my grandmother's calling, going, is everything okay? And my mom was like, yeah, fine, why? And then my grandmother proceeds to go into a dream she had, that she got into an argument with these two old ladies that were in the house. They were ghosts. And she ran one of them out. And they ran out kind of angry, said, okay, fine, I'm leaving. So kind of eerie stuff. And I wish that, and that isn't all of it. I mean, there's a lot more, that happened in that house that you could write off as that maybe it's imagination, or maybe it's not. Maybe it was something that really occurred. I used to hear voices walking sometimes in the middle of the night. My aunt, who used to live with us, would be downstairs and we'd all be in bed sleeping. She'd hear somebody crying upstairs and nobody's awake. My sister, who was even younger, a very, very young, probably 4, 5, if that at the time, would come into my room and want to sleep in this big room bed I had, because she was afraid in her room. And what I didn't want to tell her was, yeah, I'm kind of afraid too, come on in. I don't know if that stuff bothers me now so much if it happened. It kind of ticked me off probably, because my philosophy now is, if I got a ghost living with me, that ghost is paying half the mortgage. Better be ready to pay its share. But back then, it's a different story. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on that. I just want to know if anyone else have you had any experiences like that? Any scary things? Let me know.